Morning, Troy.
Good morning, George.
Well, since we talked last, Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones and their conversations, at some point it went sideways, and now the Cowboys are looking for a new head coach. The opinion of McCarthy around the league, maybe we get an early sign of it in the fact that he's already interviewed in Chicago. I get the feeling it wouldn't surprise you if he's back with somebody else next year as a head coach.
No, no, it would not at all. I'd be a little surprised if he doesn't get the opportunity. I think that. Well, I know that around the league he's highly thought of, highly regarded as far as what he's done as a head coach, and I think for those around the league, I think looking at what he was able to do in Dallas in general, I think is looked upon as favorable when you consider the number of games that he was able to win. Now, I mean, we all understand that ultimately we're judged on what we do in the postseason, and Mike understands that better than anyone. So, that was the only shortfall, and obviously that's why he's not back in Dallas. But yeah, I'd kind of expect him to land one of these jobs, and I'm hoping he does. He wants to continue to coach, and I think he's one of the top 32 in the league, and should get that opportunity.
So there are a lot of names now out there as to who might replace McCarthy. Jerry apparently has already talked to Dion. He's going to interview Saleh and Frazier. You've seen the names on the odds chart from Ben Johnson to Steve Sarkisian to Joe Brady to Kellen Moore. Any of these names float your boat that you think would be a great fit?
Yeah, it's just, I said it on Monday night when I was on ESPN. I think what maybe is a good fit some places isn't a good fit here. It's a challenging job for a lot of reasons, and none of which you all haven't heard before. So, who might be best is really anybody's guess. It's just, I don't know. It's, a lot of people have been hired, a lot of people have been fired, and the results for the most part have kind of been the same. I just go back to it's just hiring and firing head coaches and expecting that to be what changes the direction or the outcomes, the results. I think is a little bit naive. So we'll see. It's anybody's guess, but there's always optimism when someone new comes in, and then it just feels like a few years later we're landing at the same spot. So what goes into that evaluation or what direction they might go, who that might be, what that might look like, is you guys have been covering it long enough, is anyone's guess.
Yeah, it is certainly a guessing game. You went through a couple of these, one a very shocking coaching change in your career. Should a leader of a team be consulted as to who the next head coach would be? Were you ever consulted or at least talked to about what direction do you think we should go in?
Yeah, I had some conversations. I don't really remember exactly if I don't know that I had that much input. But I will say that, and I've said this before, I do think that Jerry values the opinion of the quarterback, and I think that he has always wanted to. He's always wanted the quarterback to be on board with the decisions that are being made. So I would be surprised if Dak isn't involved in some of those conversations. Now, ultimately, will Dak be the one who picks the head coach? No. Was I? No. Was Tony Romo? I don't think so. I doubt it. So, but I do. That's not totally unusual. I think it's fairly common, especially if you're talking about a franchise quarterback, which Dak is, and he's going to be there, and he's invested in the organization. So that's part of it. It's just there's a lot of different ways to go, and I'm asked a lot. I will say that I've had a number of owners that have reached out to me over the years. The benefit that I have is I have an opportunity to talk to all of these candidates over the course of a year or a few years and really kind of see them develop. So I typically have some thoughts on the various people that are up for a number of these jobs. And so I've been asked in recent years what I've thought about various people or what direction I would go, what would I look for if I was a general manager and hiring a coach. And I think that in today's league, in a perfect world, I would want a head coach that was calling the plays, someone like Kyle Shanahan, someone like Sean Payton. Mike McCarthy certainly was that guy, but I would want an offensive guy, and I'd want to be in love with the scheme and the offense that he was running. And then when you get beyond that, he has to be able to be the head coach. And if you've got a great offensive mind, but you don't feel that he would make a great head coach for the entire team, then I think you've got to go in a different direction. But ideally, I'd want a head coach that was calling the plays, that was, because you guys have probably heard me say this over the years, that I think offensive coordinator is the hardest job on the staff, calling plays. Everybody has an opinion. Rarely do you hear people criticize or go after the defensive coordinator on a given call. Mm-hmm. If they're struggling over a period of time, then you'll hear about it. But every person sitting on the couch, every owner, everybody in the organization, everybody on the team, everyone has an opinion on whether that was a good play call offensively or whether it was not. And so if you're a defensive coach, and even if you land, let's say for instance, Dan Campbell in Detroit, he's got Ben Johnson, who's done a great job. When Ben took over as the play caller, that's when really things started to ascend in Detroit, especially offensively. And now he leaves. Well, Dan's got to have a backup plan as far as who's going to replace him, and those guys are hard to find. They're really hard to find. So I would tell you it's easier to find a head coach than it is to find a great offensive coordinator. And that's why I'd want to go with an offensive guy. And for those guys, for those teams like San Francisco, like Denver, that have a play caller and a real head coach that everyone knows is in charge, they've got a real luxury.
It's our weekly football visit with Cowboys Hall of Famer Troy Aikman. You know Dion Sanders very well. His name was the first to come up for this opening. Nobody's sure if he's a serious candidate, but with Jerry and Dion, they will surprise you every once in a while. Yeah. Do you think he would be a fit here?
Well, I wouldn't bet against him. I absolutely would never bet against Dion. I've just seen it too many times, and I've said it when he took the Jackson State job. I was so proud of him for doing that, and it's one thing to coach your kids through Pop Warner, and then you do through middle school and high school, but to really put your reputation out there on the line and take on that Jackson State job, and then to do what he was able to do, and then go to Colorado and on a bigger stage and do what he's done there. He's proven that he's earned the opportunity. So if he lands the job in Dallas, if that ultimately is what happened, or if he goes somewhere else within the NFL or even in the college ranks, he's earned that opportunity. So whether it's a good fit or I don't know if I'd look at anyone and say it's necessarily a great fit. I just think there's a lot of hurdles, and so it may not be a great fit for anyone. But if Dion were to come on board, I think he'd be fantastic. I think he would relate exceptionally well to the locker room. It's amazing that for someone who's as far removed from having played, the reverence that these current players have for his career and what he was as a player. It's pretty remarkable, and it says a lot for him. So I think he'd be fantastic no matter where he is. And as you guys have heard me say, I'm a big fan, and I would never bet against him.
From all these names, if you were running this, would you wait until after the Super Bowl so you could truly talk to everybody? Unless somebody just came in and just blew me away. I think you kind of owe it to the organization and to the process of interviewing as many people as you can. I think I would, I would hate Ben Johnson right now is the hottest coach that I'm hearing, and I've talked to him. I know him, and I think he's terrific as an offensive guy. You're always projecting with someone who's not been a head coach.
as far as what they're capable of doing. And everybody thinks, oh, this guy's going to be great, but it's like selecting a quarterback in the first round. You just don't know. And there's tons of examples of great offensive guys or great assistant coaches that haven't had much success as head coaches. And so, but if you were going through the interview process and you felt that, well, what I was going to say is if you're Jerry or you're the Cowboys or one of these teams and you hire somebody and I just think you'd kind of kick yourself for not having at least waited. Mm-hmm. And maybe you don't have an opportunity. I mean, maybe Ben Johnson has his own thoughts. Maybe, I don't know who his representatives are or who they're talking with in his camp. Maybe he's saying, no, Dallas isn't of interest. I'm just, that's hypothetical. I don't know. But I would want to, but time is of the essence for sure. There's a lot of assistant coaches scrambling right now for jobs, and the longer you wait, you're losing out on more than just a possible head coach.